What's going on, YouTube? It's Mr. Mike Shea here, and today we are talking about the Batman. I literally just got home a minute and a half ago from an early fan screening at the IMAX theater here in town. I got a lot to say. Fair warning right now, not really a warning, but don't worry, I guess. There's going to be no spoilers in this review. I'm going to wait and release my spoiler review the Monday after the movie comes out, give everybody at least the opening weekend to go see it, which, judging by the fact that I can't get any tickets to go see it this weekend because they're all sold out, has me feeling like a lot of people are going to go see this movie this weekend. So no spoilers in this review. The spoiler review will come out the Monday after. So don't worry. But I don't even know where to begin with this. I really don't. I've said many times that I do consider myself, the world's biggest Batman fan personally. Sorry if that rubbed you the wrong way. I love Batman. Batman's always been my favorite superhero. That's not to say that I have rose tinted glasses. Like I acknowledge things when I do, but Batman's always been my favorite character. And as a aspiring filmmaker and writer myself, obviously I've got my own little unfinished Batman scripts I've written over the years, just pipe dream ideas of movies I'd like to see. And I was surprised at how many, a lot of times when you are a writer and you write these kind of pipe dream scripts, it's usually just to kind of scratch an itch, there's just something you want. There's a story you want told. And sometimes to just kind of get yourself to stop obsessing over it, you kind of have to just kind of write it yourself. I think a lot of creators are that way, whether you're a podcaster or a filmmaker or whatever. You have an idea of something you'd like to see, and when you can't find anyone making it, you decide to try to make it yourself. So that's what a lot of my own personal attempts at writing Batman have always been. As a lover of noir and mystery and detective stories, and as a fan of slow burn movies that I like to call deliberately paced, a lot of the ideas I've had for Batman stories of my own have always fit into that kind of narrative. And while I've loved almost everything Batman that's ever come out, there's a few outliers. I loved everything with, Ben Affleck's Batman and Christian Bale's Batman, and, the Keaton Schumacher early Batman days and all that, are what they are. But nothing I've seen so far has ever really done for me kind of what I really wanted from Batman, which was the dark tones with the shrouded in mystery and again, slow burn storytelling. I love Batfleck's warehouse fight scene in BVS. I love watching Batman kick ass. But as much as I love watching Batman kick ass, I love watching Batman be a detective even more. And Matt Reeves' Batman scratched that itch and scratched it so good. I've never seen a Batman movie like this before. I've never seen a comic book movie like this before. Matt Reeves has been saying since day one that this is going to be a different kind of Batman story. And he was not lying. He was not kidding. He was not fucking around. This movie is a love letter to Batman lore. This movie is a true, it's a Batman fan's dream. All the things that make us love Batman for who he is, his ruthlessness, his intelligence, his mysteriousness, all of that is so well represented here, but also his flaws. it's so easy for Batman properties to paint this flawless, infallible picture of Batman. It's easy to do that, especially if you're marketing towards kids. But when you're marketing more towards adults, and that's definitely what this film is not in the way that, and I love the MCU, but the MCU tend to lean more towards like what's going to pull in the biggest wide net audience possible. And that's fine. There's plenty of room for that in the world. This is not that movie though. Like this is not even like a Nolan style. And I'm not trying to compare it. I'm trying really hard not to compare it too much to other. I've been seeing a lot of that happening in some of like the early critic reviews that have come out where they're reviewing the movie by telling you it's not the Snyderverse or it's not Nolan or it's not Schumacher. I don't want to hear about what the movie's not. I want to hear about what the movie is. And the only way you have to talk about a movie is to cut down another one. I have no interest in what you have to say. Just tell me what the movie is on its own. So what Matt Reeves' Batman is on its own is a slow burning, deliberately paced noir mystery. It's not an action film. There are some action sequences in it, and I'll get into those a bit more in the spoiler review, but there are some amazing action sequences in this movie. This is not an action movie. This is every pulpy private dick working at night, lurking in the alleys and talking, hitting up the criminals and squeezing them for information. It's so much that in all the best ways. I've said for years, Blade Runner is my favorite film, like hands down. And so much of what I love about Blade Runner, I love about this movie. It's represented in this movie. It's very obvious that Matt Reeves took inspiration. We've heard people say like the inspiration from like the movie Seven or, the Zodiac, but there's an obvious Blade Runner influence in this movie as well. The performances all around, whether it's Robert Pattinson as Batman, Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle, Colin Farrell as Cobblepot, Andy Serkis as Alfred, Jeffrey Wright as Gordon, Paul Dano as the Riddler. I could go on and on. I mean, there's not a bad performance in this movie. I think everyone who's in this, no matter how big or small their part to play, they came at this with 110%. 110%. Nobody felt like they were in another movie. Nobody felt like they were disjointed or comic booky or mustache twirly. Like this felt like such a real story. It felt so like people talk about the Nolan films and how grounded in reality they were, and they very much were. Again, I'm not trying to do too much comparison, but when you look at the like, but I will say like when you look at the Nolan films, like yes, they're very grounded in reality. There's no like superpowers and like that. It's very much like that. But you get into Ben Affleck's Batman, which is kind of the polar opposite, where it's very not based in reality. It's very much based in this world of superheroes and aliens and superpowers. And while Matt Reeves' the Batman leans almost entirely on that realistic side, it's realistic in it's Nolan's films were grounded in reality. The Matt Reeves Batman, the Batman, lives in reality. Like it feels so, everything from the look of the car to his suit to the city itself looks so real. Gotham looks like such a real, like independent city in this. It doesn't look like New York. It doesn't look like Chicago. It doesn't look like any of these cities are already seen all dressed up to look like. It looks like it's its own city. They really made Gotham City a character of its own in this movie. And I'll tell you, we've seen in other Batman properties, we've always heard about what a shithole Gotham is. It's the worst. It's the dirtiest, most corrupt city on the face of the earth. And I got to tell you something. Anytime you actually see Gotham in those movies or those shows or whatever, Gotham just seems like any other city. A couple of armed robbers, but mostly just full of good people. the dark, gritty criminal underworld that makes Gotham the piece of shit that it is so prevalent in this movie. It's so prevalent in this movie. It really does feel like Gotham is a city beyond salvation, and Batman's here to try and fix that. Michael Giacchino's score. I got to talk about this score. I have been raving about this on Twitter ever since they started dropping the character themes individually, and then they dropped the entire score and soundtrack the other day, which, first of all, Giacchino, my hat is off to you in terms of just your titles for some of these songs. They're so full of puns, it's ridiculous, and I love every moment of it. And people want to say right away that, like, you know, Matt Reeves clearly understands the Batman lore, but I think Michael Giacchino understands it just as well, if not better. I've had the soundtrack on repeat in my car every day since it was released. And having not even seen the movie at that point, it was so easy for me to tell the kind of mood that the picture the songs were trying to paint. It was so clear through the use of different instruments and arrangements, as well as the common theme, the common Batman theme throughout most of it, just how well Giacchino understood these characters and this setting and this story. This score alone is the reason why Giacchino is in conversation as being one of the best modern directors, or composers rather. He is my favorite. I have just about every score he's composed on my phone downloaded. There's no one quite like him, like from our generation, that's working today. The cinematography from Greg Fraser is incredible as well. Greg Fraser worked on The Mandalorian. I don't know if he was the DP for The Mandalorian. I know he worked on The Mandalorian, and a lot of the techniques that he used to film The Mandalorian were, you can see, they showed some behind the scenes stuff on Twitter. So, like, filming in front of the giant screens as opposed to like the blue screens, but like it was exactly what he did for The Mandalorian, which helped things look a bit more real, look a little less blue screeny. There's almost no CGI or anything in this movie. There's, like, you know, a few effects. I mean, like, we hear all the time about how, like, the capes and stuff like that are usually fake, and that is what it is. But I mean, this is a very practical film. But yeah, Greg Fraser, Greg, I think it's Greg. Absolutely, just there are some, and we've seen a lot of these shots popping up in the trailers and in like desktop wallpapers and stuff as they begin dropped. But there were so many times that there were some shots, some creative choices taking with some shots in this movie that I was just like, this is a cinematographer that just knows what the hell he's doing. The amount of A+ talent working both in front of and behind the camera on this movie is insane. And yeah, Matt Reeves, this man is like, he's never made a bad film. I'm sorry. Cloverfield is great. His Apes movies are fantastic. And this is such a big notch on the bedpost. Like, this is such a great win for this is an artisanal Batman film, and I don't mean that to sound pretentious or whatever, but this is a Batman film, a Batman story, you know, told like, it's not told as a comic book story, it's told as a psychological thriller, neo-noir mystery detective story that's decorated with superhero comic book trappings. I found myself, I mean, I didn't even eat my popcorn, okay? Like, I was so engrossed in what was happening from one moment to the next. My popcorn bucket, and I got one of those, like, the special Batman buckets you can get for like an extra $10 or whatever. And it wasn't even half gone. I mean, I had, at one point, I had to focus on what was going on. I didn't drink my drink, probably for the best, because I would have had to pee. I was so engrossed in everything that was on screen. I I texted a friend of mine. I speak a little Spanish and German, and I told her, I said, I don't know enough words in English, German, or Spanish combined to describe how this movie made me feel. There was a standing ovation. There was a standing fucking ovation when it was over in our screening. People were floored. There were several times in the movie where something is revealed and there were audible gasps. Like, people were like, no way. This movie is something special. I know a lot of people are concerned about the runtime because it's just shy of 3 hours. It is a long movie, but as I said before, it's deliberately paced. This is not a quick, fast-paced action movie. This is a slow, methodical story. This is a mystery that needs to be unraveled, and it's a mystery within a mystery. So it's one of those. It's a situation kind of like you see with, like, to use the example of Batman v Superman. The theatrical cut's about 2.5 hours. And it kind of feels it. Like, it feels a little long. But when it was re-released with the Ultimate Edition, where it actually had 30 minutes added into it, but they rearranged the order some of the scenes were in and changed how scenes were edited, it helped with that pacing so that this now 3-hour movie felt like 2. Zack Snyder's Justice League, same thing, same director. The 4-hour cut, it doesn't really feel quite like 4 hours because, yes, it's long, but what's happening on screen is interesting. And that's how it is with this. I'll use the example. Let's compare The Godfather to, like, The Irishman. The Godfather is a long movie, but it's an interesting long movie. Everything that's happening on screen is fascinating. So even though it's 3 hours, you don't really care. As opposed to, like, The Irishman, which is 3.5 hours, but it drags because a lot of what's happening on screen isn't that interesting, or just kind of feels like, okay, like, is this done yet? And the Batman kind of leans more in that Godfather realm where it's like, yeah, it's almost 3 hours, but, like, everything that's happening on screen's pretty fucking important. It's very important to the story and to the characters. You know, I've seen people complaining left and right about it. And to those people, I'm like, I don't know. You must have watched 2 different movies. Because if you think any of this stuff needed to be cut out from this story, like, people say, like, oh, you can cut X, Y, or Z out and the story would still work. I don't buy that for a second. I think some people are just impatient. I think some people are just impatient and are looking for things to whine about. Now, is this a flawless movie? No. I can't go into a lot of my flaws without spoiling it, so that'll come out more in the spoiler review. I just will say, like, there are some things in the movie that I have to sit and think on them, because I have to figure out, are they issues or are they just not what I expected? And if they're not what I expected, that doesn't necessarily make them bad, but they are just things that didn't work for me. I'll get into that in the spoiler review. So there were some things I was kind of like, but, you know, I'm not the one getting hired to make these movies. I'm just a jackass with a computer. So what the hell all my movies are 5 minutes long. So what the hell do I know? My director's cut is 20 minutes of one of my movies. Like, that's it. So, but I will tell you right now, like, people I didn't expect to love as much as I did in this movie are Colin Farrell as the Penguin and John Turturro as Carmine Falcone. I knew I was going to enjoy them. I didn't know how much I was going to enjoy them in this movie. And I enjoyed everybody, but I was surprised how much I enjoyed John Turturro and Colin Farrell. And let me just say, Paul fucking Dano as the Riddler is everything I have wanted in a Riddler for a long time. I have a weird soft spot for Jim Carrey's Riddler from Batman Forever. And I feel like the Riddler is one of those characters who they've never really done anything super interesting with over the years, though. And I feel like there's so much potential in that character, but I feel like almost every iteration of the Riddler is the fucking same. My favorite Riddler up until this point was, and I'm blanking on the guy's name, but the guy from Gotham. And keep in mind, Gotham is a show, as somebody who is a beloved Batman fan, Gotham is a show I did not like at all. But I'll tell you two things Gotham nailed, and that was the Riddler and their portrayal of the city of Gotham being a massive shithole. Because I found myself thinking that in this movie, I was like, the only other time I've seen Gotham look like this is in the show Gotham. That was one of the things Gotham did really well, was making this city feel like it was a lost cause. And their portrayal, and I need to pull the actor's name up, but the actor who played the Riddler in Gotham really nailed what I was wanting more from that character. Didn't give me everything, because especially towards the end, he still just kind of felt like the same version of the Riddler I've always seen. This is a version of the Riddler I've been wanting for over a decade. I've been saying for years, like, the Riddler could easily be one of the most terrifying Batman villains if he's used right. They used him right in this. Yeah. I don't know how much else I can really go into at this point without spoiling it, so I will just say, go see this fucking movie. Go see this fucking movie. And when it's on HBO Max, watch it. This is a movie that I can't wait to go sit in the theater again and again. And it's got 45 days in theaters. That's 45 chances for me to go see this movie. And I got a lot of Cinemark freebies saved up that I haven't used yet. So please go see this movie. If you have seen it, please let me know in the comments what you think. No spoilers. If I see spoilers in the comments, I will delete them. The spoiler review will be up on Monday after the movies come out. I will also have a full written review on Letterboxd. If you guys aren't following me on Letterboxd, please do that. I'm better on the page than I am in person. So if you want to read my written reviews, you can do that there as well. I do have, but my Letterboxd reviews do have spoilers in them. So I won't post my Letterboxd review for this movie until after the spoiler video goes up on Monday. Please go see Matt Reeves' The Batman. Dear God, I can't even fathom what I just watched. This was a work of art. This was a work of art in the form of a Batman film. And the bar has been raised. The bar has been fucking raised. Subscribe, like the video, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, all that good shit. I got nothing else. I gotta go take a breath. I'll see you guys later. Woo!